What's going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here, and it is good to be back. It is good to be back doing recaps, and it is especially good to be back doing recaps after an Eagles victory. As the season ended last year, I didn't get to do the victory laps too often, so I'm wearing my Victory Monday shirt. The Eagles are 1-0. They get the victory over the Packers in Brazil in what was a chaotic game. It was a sloppy game. It was the game we predicted almost to a T. I think we said shootout, it'd be 31-27 and ended up being 34-29. It played out almost exclusively how we thought it was going to go. So here we are, 1-0. Let's get into all of it. At first, we're live on TikTok this way. We're live on our YouTube and our Twitter this way. So thank you to everybody who's been following along, interacting so far. And if you're new this offseason, found us through the draft coverage, we do the games as well. That's the most fun part, even though we have a lot of fun during the draft. So make sure to subscribe, like everything that you can do. Into the game itself, I thought that first quarter, that kind of is the emphasis of the lack of preseason, because you see a lot of sloppiness, and the Eagles kind of got bailed out a little bit because I don't want to say totally bailed out, because I want to get into the defense. We'll start with them, but before the offense, I thought they did a great job. But you saw a lot of sloppiness. You saw the 2 turnovers from the Eagles. It looked like a group that had not played together before. It looked like a center who had not snapped to Jalen Hurts in a live game before, and a center who hadn't snapped for the Eagles. And, it's been 10 years since Jason Kelce took the snap. So there was sloppiness, but it almost kind of worked in their favor because the Packers were just as sloppy. They had 6 penalties in that first quarter, and 5 of them were offensive. So it kind of slowed them down, and it was only 6-0. It could have been a lot worse. But a lot of that, hey, that was due to the Eagles defense. That was the question mark. We were saying, you know what, as bad as last year went, I'm pretty confident that a group that it contains Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley now, it's still a really good offensive line even without Jason Kelce. Goddard is a top 10 tight end. They have a coordinator now. I think that these guys can figure it out, right? Like I think the offensive group could figure it out. On the defensive side of the ball, it wasn't just the new coordinator. It just wasn't the collapse at the end of the year. They didn't really get that much better. They lost Hassan Reddick. They lost Fletcher Cox, and yeah, they brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but that was a secondary group. They were not one player away last year from being a solid secondary group. And I thought they did a phenomenal job of keeping composure early, holding the Packers to field goals. And a lot of that was guys who were question marks stepping up. Most importantly, the linebacker play. Nakobe Dean felt like he was all over the field, and he wasn't even the best linebacker of the night because Zach Bond had 15 tackles, the game-sealing sack, and 2 sacks overall. You felt their emphasis early. We questioned the Georgia kids. Hey, could they make an impact? Well, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis made an impact early. You heard less from Jordan Davis as the game went on, but you still heard from Jalen Carter, and I just thought that was a phenomenal job of the defense keeping the composure until the offense started to pull it together. You'll look at the box score and they gave up 29 points. Okay, that's fine. 29 is fine, especially in week 1. But I thought for the most part, they did a really, really good job. There were 2 stretches where I was like, come on, guys. And it was the Nakobe Dean near pick 6. That was then it created a 3rd and long, and then they score the long 70-yard TD. So you're like, all right, you got to eliminate the big play. And then there was the fumble. They recover it, and they get back into 3rd and long. They go another 3rd and long, and they score TD on that drive. So you're saying, all right, come on, guys. Well, what are we doing here? But aside from that, they had a few big plays. I thought they did a really good job. I want to talk about Bryce Huff a little bit because we didn't hear from him in the game. He was the only guy where I was like, where are you, pal? We need you. We don't have a lot of pressure, and we're down Hassan Reddick this year. Aside from that, I thought they did a phenomenal job. And we'll get into Jordan Love, who unfortunately got hurt at the end of the game, versus Jalen Hurts. But they did a very, very, very good job of containing him. Again, gave up a few of the big plays, but aside from that, did a great job. Josh Jacobs got going later in the game, but in the first half really had nowhere to go. You saw a lot of behind the line of scrimmage. It felt like the Packers all night were in constant 2nd and 12s, 3rd and 10s. Now, some of that was their own doing. They had a lot of penalties. Like we said, it was a pretty sloppy game to start. But I thought the Eagles did a great job of stopping runs on first downs, making it pretty rigid for that offense, where aside from the Jaden Reed big plays with the reverse and the 70-yard TD, aside from that, it did not really flow that much. And one of the scores that they had, they got the fumble, or the Eagles fumble and the Eagles interception. They had that 6 points early. So the defense really did a good job of eliminating big plays, even stopped them on the 2-point conversion. It just felt like when they needed it most, they finally got the stop. They got the turnover finally when they needed most. You're like, you had a near pick six, you had a near fumble recovery. You didn't get either. Of course, Reed Blankenship saves the day. He gets that pick. The momentum felt like it was kind of flowing the Eagles that way then, because the defense kind of got stops and got stops and got stops. And they get the stop to make it 31-29 at the time, hold them to the field goal again, which they did quite often in this game, and then turn it over to the offense. Let's work backwards with the offense, because there was something in the last drive that I'm very happy is back. If you've been a fan of this show since 2022, I think you know what we're going to talk about. But last year, we didn't see it as much. What the 2022 team did, if they were up by one possession late in the game, the other team never saw the ball. It was what I called the fuck you drive, where they took 6 or 7 minutes off the clock. It was first down after first down. You knew they were going to run the ball, and it didn't really matter too much because they were just going to pound you with their offensive line. First down after first down. You never see the ball again. Game over. Thanks for coming out. We'll take the win. We'll go home. We didn't see that as much last year. There were a lot of late game losses, like the Seahawks game. They couldn't get the Jets game was terrible because not only did you not have the fuck you drive, you gave up the pick six. The Eagles got the ball back with 7:56 in the fourth quarter after the after the Packers field goal. It's 31-29. Eagles get the ball back, 7:56 to go. They kicked the field goal with 30 seconds left. That drive lasted over 7 minutes. The Packers had the ball with 22 seconds down 5. It was excellent execution of the fuck you drive. And what I thought was most important on it, it wasn't just handing it off to Saquon Barkley. He was amazing tonight, and I want to get into that because as all Penn State Eagles fans we should rejoice. We'll get to him. Jalen Hurts making plays with his legs, trusting his legs, using his force, using his strength, but also Devontae Smith, who I think is probably the most overlooked guy tonight because A.J. Brown had the long TD. He's awesome. We know about him. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts. We're always going to talk about the quarterback, right? But I thought going to Devontae Smith, who arguably A.J. Brown is your best receiver, I think Devontae Smith is the most reliant receiver, and you saw that on the final drive going to him. So I liked not just depending on the run, not being afraid to throw the ball in those situations late in games and trusting Jalen Hurts to throw the ball in the situations late in games. I know how ironic that sounds. That pick was one of the most inexplicable throws I've ever seen. We'll get into all that, but I just want to start in reverse. 7 minutes off the clock. They put points on the board. There were 22 seconds left for the Packers at the end of that. They were great. That is exactly what you want from your NFL offense. And I cannot say enough how it just looks with these two different coordinators now. But on offense, I thought that stuck out. That's winning football right there. And that final 7 minutes to not allow the Packers to get the ball back until it was 22 seconds with no timeouts. So what else with the offense? We saw everything we would hope to see. There was motion. There was lining guys up at different spots. I saw, I love the bunch stack that they were doing over to the side where they put Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on the same side of the field. I like the kind of just the fake wide receiver screens, which they did kind of incorporate that last year, but I like to see it again this year. I thought they were able to spread people out. Like I said, with the motion, they bring Will Shipley in. They utilized it with Saquon as well, bring them across the formation. I think that worked for a few times with them because they brought Will Shipley or Saquon across the formation. Somebody comes with them and it clears that side out. And then, hey, you're just going to win because you got Goddard, you got A.J. Brown, and you got Devontae Smith. Chances are you are going to win with those guys on the field, right? And then there was one stretch before the interception where the Eagles kind of put their pedal to the gas, and they had 5 wide receiver spread, including the running back, and they went up tempo. But what they were doing is it was kind of like dragging the running back across, and it was really opening up the middle of the field. I think that's something that we all talked about last year that didn't happen. It was one, creativity in the offense. So we're talking 5 wide receiver spread, opening up, bring a guy across, open up the middle of the field, and then not utilizing the middle of the field. Well, they did it twice in a row to Grant Calcaterra on one play, who, trust all your guys, right? And I think the other play was to Devontae Smith, but it was just like they opened up the middle of the field. And once they had that going, they got into a hurry up offense and kind of had the Packers on their heels. Now, that drive did end up with the most inexplicable interception I've ever seen from Carson Wentz. See, that's a Freudian slip right there. The fact that I said that interception was from Carson Wentz. When you're up 31-26 and you're throwing across your body into the end zone across the field on 3rd and 13. And oh, by the way, you're in 3rd and 13 because you made the wrong read on 1st down when he could have handed it to Saquon Barkley. And instead you kept it and then you put yourself behind the sticks. Now you're throwing off balance in the end zone. The worst case scenario there should be that you throw it away and we kick the field goal and we're up 5. I have no idea what he was thinking on that interception. I couldn't get out of my head as the Josh Jacobs ripped off a 32-yard play on the following ensuing drive. That's all I could think about was we just lost that game and we went right back into Carson Wentz territory with Jalen Hurts. Luckily, the following drive, when they put together that 7-minute drive, was awesome. But yeah, I just thought that the flow of the offense after that first quarter, it was a little bit rigid, and I think we're going to see that across the league since people aren't really playing in preseason. I think it's going to be a lot of that. But once they got settled, that is the exact offense that you'd hope to see. There's a lot of rhythm. There is creativity in the playbook. I really liked it a lot. It was the efficiency across the board. I just talked about how reliant Devontae Smith is, but this is a game in which A.J. Brown had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. And oh, by the way, I thought there were some really good plays from Dallas Goedert, who had 31 yards. And then, of course, Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. I got to say it 3 times for the 3 touchdowns that he had today. I cannot believe it. We equated him being on the team and getting them to watch play for the first time as waking up on Christmas morning as a kid and going downstairs and unwrapping your presents. That was like, I got a PlayStation, I got a car, I got a Rolex for Christmas. It was everything I had dreamed of for 7 years since he left Penn State to now, and waiting and hoping I could root for Saquon again one day. And I got to do that tonight, and it was everything I could have ever dreamed for, and then more. He had over 100 yards receiving. He had a touchdown on the wheel route, of course, because we dreamed it into reality. And then he had 3 touchdowns total, made a huge presence. A 33-year-old ripped it off gain. It was phenomenal. He was everything that I had hoped for, everything that I had dreamed for, and it was exactly what we talked about. There have been good running backs. DeAndre Swift is a good running back. Miles Sanders is a good running back. Saquon Barkley is a franchise-altering, offense-changing, top 5 running back in the league. You could tell right away from the second quarter on of week 1 the difference that Saquon Barkley makes in this offense and the different ways that they can utilize him. They were phenomenal tonight on offense. Kellen Moore did a great job. It feels great to have another offensive coordinator who's an actual offensive coordinator in this league, but Saquon sticks out because I have been waiting 6 months. In reality, I've been waiting 7 years since he left Penn State, and he was spectacular. I loved his utilization. I loved the way he got him involved, and boy, did he deliver. I thought that was phenomenal in the flow of offense. Now, last point on the offense and just kind of in the game as a whole. We've talked about 2 things, and we'll start with the negative. We'll get to the positive. Pass rush. Bryce Huff was the one name that we didn't really call tonight. I thought Josh Sweat played pretty well. Jalen Carter made an impact. Anytime they kind of got caught up, it was 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12s, right? Where that's the time your pass rushers got to get home. You really didn't hear from Bryce Huff at all. So if I'm looking at one negative from tonight that we had talked about before going into the game, as it could be a negative, it was the lack of pass rush. They had the 2 sacks that came from Zach Bond. The linebackers played great. The secondary and Quinyon Mitchell in his first game, I thought played really well. The pass rush, not so much. That's something to keep an eye on in the negative. In the positive, I mentioned the Hurts interception. Now let's praise him. Going into this season, a lot of people are high on Jordan Love. And I talked about this, and I'm so glad that I don't have to eat shit. Because overnight, he put up a 50 burger on the Cowboys, and he got anointed the next big thing in the league. And I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, I wanted Jordan Love to succeed. I thought he was going to be really good. When did we decide that Jordan Love is better than Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts? When did this happen? Well, tonight, Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love were on the same field. And again, I feel really bad that he got injured because I'm rooting for this kid. But there was a quarterback who was clearly better than the other quarterback. Jordan Love threw for under 50% in this game. He had the 2 touchdowns, but he had the interception as well. Maybe it was the calf. Maybe it was something like that. Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback. Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback. We did 6 months of Jordan Love MVP talk. Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than he is, and it was on display tonight. I thought Hurts utilized his legs late in the game, but he made big throws after things got chaotic in the first quarter. He settled them down with his arm. It feels like they can trust him more. We talked about his ability to go over the middle of the field. The the connection with A.J. Brown, he will always have. He hit him on some third downs. He hit him on the deep ball, which is one of his specialties and his strength to start that third quarter. Everything that Jalen Hurts does well was on display tonight. And you got some of the bad, right? You got some of the bad. You had we talked about it already, and I can see it in the TikTok comments. He had 3 turnovers. The one really wasn't his fault, and that was an inexplicable 2 interceptions. But he was still, even with the interceptions, better than Jordan Love. He commanded the offense better. The flow of the offense, what's it got going, the run and pass balance that they had. He was able to use his legs on third down. He was able to hit Devontae Smith in big moments. He hit the home runs on the wheel route to Saquon Barkley early in the third quarter to A.J. Brown. He was the better quarterback tonight because he is the better quarterback. And I'm very glad that this is not a hypothetical argument that we're doing on talk shows anymore. We saw it, whether it was on NBC or whether it was on Peacock. They went on the field, they played each other, and Jalen Hurts was better. So I want to give him a lot of praise for that because it's been 6 months of hearing that he wasn't that good, that Jordan Love is better. He was the better quarterback. He is. Like, I have reservations about him. He is a better quarterback than Jordan Love is. So I want to shout that out as well. And the coordinators, they did a phenomenal job. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a big season in Kellen Moore's offense. It just feels right. He should be better than Love. What's your point? My point is that the entire offseason we spent talking about how Jordan Love was the top 5 quarterback. He should be MVP. Who was the MVP candidate out there tonight? Because it really looked like it was Jalen Hurts, and maybe we'll start that conversation back up again, heading into the weeks again. But as I said, I think he will do very, very good in Kellen Moore's offense, and just the way that offense flowed. A lot of the predictability from last year was gone. A lot of more creativity in the offense this time around. And that leads me to my final point. Nick Sirianni is now 4-0 as a starting head coach. All offseason, we heard Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni don't like each other. Nick Sirianni could be on the hot seat. Should we believe in Jalen Hurts? Well, I think the Packers are a really good football team. And they'll be really, really good this year if Jordan Love is healthy. I hope that nothing's wrong with his ankle. I hope it's not a high ankle sprain. I hope it's not a leg break, anything like that. I hope not. But for 2 guys that were under the barrel of the gun all offseason, boy, did they have a debut to the season. Nick Sirianni, like I said, now 4-0 as a head coach. And boy, did Jalen Hurts put on a show tonight as he got that offense calmed and took over and led them to 34 points on offense and just had a great stat line aside from the turnovers, which is something hopefully we can clean up. They did great. The marriage might last another year. Who knows? The marriage might last another year. Brown won me $250. That's amazing. Cowboys greater than Eagles. Yeah, we'll see. They have their own issues, and we'll see how that goes on Sunday. Myles Garrett versus a rookie tackle. We'll see how that goes. And speaking of how that will go, we'll be back this week with more reaction to the Eagles. The big week 1 win in Brazil. They now come back home Monday Night Football against the Falcons. The Lincoln Financial Field should be hyped up. Considering the Eagles are now 1-0, it feels like we're back on track. We're getting a red October. There's just a different vibe in the city right now. It's starting to feel like that time of year around here. So that'll be a lot of fun. And again, like I mentioned, my co-host Kevin, he'll be reacting to the Cowboys playing the Browns this Sunday. Tom Brady's debut as a commentator, that alone is pretty fun. But also, I think that'll be a really good game and a really good test early for the Cowboys. I think we both think the Cowboys and Eagles will be really good teams, and I think the Packers are going to be a good team as well. So the fact that the Eagles pulled this off and pulled off that win, and the defense looked the way it did and made the stops when it needed to, and the offense was as efficient as it was, which was a complete 180 from last year. Listen, I'm nothing but smiles. It's Victory Friday night. Let's react and relax the rest of the weekend, because the Eagles are 1-0. Enjoy the rest of the football spread. We got college football coming up tomorrow, and then a full slate of NFL football week 1 on Sunday. 7 hours of commercial-free football with our guy, Scott Hansen. Enjoy it. Signing off from Philadelphia and really Brazil. The Eagles are 1-0.